Good evening, everybody. This is part two of our discussion with Warren Mosler and the 7 deadly innocent frauds. We're picking up right where we left off on the second innocent fraud, which is with government deficits, we are leaving debt burden to our children. Warren, let's go through that. Let's talk about that one.
Well, that's the thing you hear, that we have to get money from any congressman will tell you have to get money through taxes, and what you don't get, you have to borrow, and you're going to leave the tab to the grandchildren. Okay, so that's completely not true. It's not even possible. And the way I like to give an example that I think people can understand is that you can't send goods and services back through time. So if 20 years from now our children can produce 20 million cars, or do produce 20 million cars, whoever's alive at the time is going to drive those 20 million cars. They're not going to have to send them back to 2017 to pay off any debt. We had all that debt from World War II when we didn't have to build things and send it back to 1945 to pay off the debt. Okay, so there is no such thing as sending in real terms real goods and services back through time. So what debt can do is it can have distributional effects. It can decide in 20 years from now, 2037, who has to build the cars and who has to drive the cars if we let it do that. But in a government like ours, that gets adjusted continuously through tax policy and spending policy and all the institutional structure of the laws. They're constantly adjusting for that. And those adjustments can be made by our grandchildren. So if they don't like the way the distribution of goods and services is going, they can change it. But it's not going to go back through time. Okay, so it's just common sense that this isn't correct. So now we have to go look at the money itself, the dollar itself, and show why it isn't from a financial point of view. Okay, so we've established that the dollar is nothing more than a tax credit. Just pay taxes. It's no different than any other tax credit. If you get a certificate for a $10,000 tax credit for putting in, that's like having a $10,000 bill. It comes with $10,000. If it's transferable where anybody could use it, it would exchange like a $10,000 bill would exchange because anybody could use it. So anything the government something for payment of taxes is worth exactly that. If it says my business card is worth $20 of tax payment, you'd give me at least $19 on April 15th when you're doing your taxes, because it would represent a savings, right? So the dollar itself comes down to the tax credit. That's all it is. Okay, so what the public debt is are all the dollars the government has spent that have not yet been used to pay taxes. It's spent more than a tax. Coins in circulation in Pompeii. This is on the same video. Yeah.
You're freezing again.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. So all the coins in Pompeii that were in circulation were coins the government had spent that hadn't yet been used to pay taxes. It's exactly the same thing today. The 20 trillion of public debt or the dollar debt that haven't yet been used to pay taxes. Well, where are they, and how did they get there? Okay. Most of those 20 trillion used to be, most of the public debt used to be sitting in savings accounts at the Federal Reserve Bank that are called Treasury bills, Treasury notes. All those Treasury Securities, Treasury bonds, nothing more than dollars in savings accounts at a bank called the Federal Reserve Bank. You give them your money when you buy a Treasury bond, and they pay you interest, and then they give it back to you later. That is exactly the same as if you bought a CD or certificate deposit from a normal commercial bank, except they wouldn't call it a CD or the money, then you get it back later with interest. You want to buy a Treasury bill or a bond or a note, you give the Federal Reserve Bank money and get back later with interest. All it is a savings account at the Federal Reserve. Okay, and so when the government spends, where do the dollars first go? Well, the Treasury instructs its Federal Reserve Bank, and it's an agent of government. The whole idea about private is complete nonsense. We can talk about that later. It instructs the central bank, the Federal Reserve, to credit the account of whoever it's trying to pay. So if it's trying to pay Lockheed Martin or General Dynamics, who use JP Morgan as the bank, the Treasury will instruct the Federal Reserve to put $10 billion into the account of JP Morgan for further credit to Lockheed. So what it does is it changes, all the banks have an account at the central bank. They have a checking account, just like you have a checking account. And when the government makes a payment, it puts the money in their checking account. It changes the number to a higher number. So if there was $1 billion account for $10 billion, they change the number from $10 billion to $11 billion. Okay, now the Federal Reserve has made that payment on behalf of the Treasury. Okay, that's dollars that the government has spent and they haven't yet been used to pay taxes, and they're just sitting in these checking accounts at banks at the central bank. Okay, now if that somebody then wants to buy a Treasury security for $10 million, okay, let's say General Dynamics wants to put or want to keep the money in their checking account. They want to put, okay, so they would then buy Treasury securities. Well, what does that mean? Well, it's the same thing if you buy a CD. When you buy a CD at a bank, they just move the money from your checking account to your savings account. The Federal Reserve will then shift the dollars from JP Morgan's checking account, which they call a reserve account. It's a Federal Reserve Bank, they call it a reserve account. Savings account. Treasury security, they shift the $10 billion from checking to savings. That's called going into debt. You can call it whatever you want, but they're just shifting the money from checking to savings. So if you had money in the checking account at your bank and you shifted it to a savings account, nobody sounds the alarm that now your bank has gone into debt. Okay, they don't call it that. But for the Federal Reserve, that's what they call it. Now, why do they call it gold standard? The dollars in the checking accounts were convertible to gold, went into the securities accounts, the savings accounts were not convertible until they matured. And so there was a difference. And so they called it going into debt because you owed convertible currency back. But that's been gone since 1934. Okay, so it's completely inapplicable today, but we still call it going into debt. It's entirely misleading. It's just shifting money from savings to checking. So what burden do our grandchildren have? How do you pay back the debt? Well, every time the bonds mature, what does the Federal Reserve do? They shift the dollars from savings back to checking. The way they say it is we debit the checking, the checking account. We debit the securities account, we credit the reserve account. Okay, there are no grandchildren and no taxpayers in that room. And the way the vocabulary is used, that debt is then paid, shifting to another. So the idea that this is some kind of a burden, is nonsense. The dollars have been spent. They remain outstanding in checking accounts or savings accounts at the Federal Reserve with some in cash. And they get shifted back and forth between accounts, but they don't go anywhere else unless they're used to pay, and then they just pay back. The debt is the money. It's dollars in savings accounts at the Federal Reserve. It's the same way the dollars in checking accounts are the money, the dollars in savings accounts are the money. If you get a checking account and you move it to a savings account, do you no longer have the money? Of course not. Still your money is in the account. Okay, and so this debt that's supposedly some kind of a burden is what I like to call an important form of the money supply. It's the outstanding money supply. It's not to be paid. It's just tax credits that have been, dollars that have been spent by the federal government, tax credits that haven't yet been used to pay taxes.
So you're telling me there's literally no debt in the way that you and I know it today at all. It's a complete lie.
Yeah, it's an obligation to accept the dollars for payment of taxes. That's what the debt is. Okay, well, we all know that. That's not a burden. Okay, and there's no promise of value. They don't say what the whole 20 trillion might be enough for a pack of gum in 20 years. Who knows? Okay, it's just tax credits. There's nothing else there. Yeah, exactly like you said.
All right, so just so you know, just to give you a little feedback, there's a break. We got a little bit of a bad connection on terms of the voice Nothing unusual, unfortunately, but we're fighting through it, and I'm getting word from Piam that we're okay. It's just a little broken. So let's move on to number 3. Innocent fraud number 3. Government budget deficits take away savings.
Right.
Fraud.
Yeah, because they don't. Okay, they add to savings. They don't take it away because the debt is the savings. All right, and so we've got the whole thing backwards, of course, because they act like the government has to take the money out of the economy and by borrowing it, and then they spend it. Okay, we know it's the other way around. They spend it first, and then they borrow it. They spend it first and put it in your checking account to your savings account and earn a little more interest. And then, well, the savings account is still the money. And I used to give an example of how this works. And let's say you're a dentist, and President Obama needs to get his teeth cleaned. And it costs $100 to get his teeth cleaned. And so the Federal Reserve credits you, the dentist, when you charge President Obama $100, and they put $100 in your account, in your bank account. So your bank account's just gone up by $100. Okay, that's $100 you did not have before. The government has spent that money and they haven't taxed it. They're just spending it. So when they spend it, it adds $100 to it. You then take that money and you buy a Treasury security, $100. So now you move the $100 from a checking account to a savings account, but it's still your $100. It's in a savings account. Okay, and you're back where you started from. President Obama's come in, you've cleaned his teeth, and you've got $100 in. Okay, so the debt, and that's deficit spending. The government spent, but it didn't tax. Does that take away your savings? No, it added to your savings.
Yeah.
Look at it now let's look at it the other way around. You get the same answer. The Treasury decides to deficit spend $100, so you're a dentist, okay, and it needs to pay, or you're a businessman or anything, and it needs to pay the dentist for President Obama's teeth cleaning. So it issues a Treasury security. Somebody with $100, let's say the dentist had an extra $100, okay, it doesn't matter. The dentist buys a Treasury security. Now, he's had his money moved from his checking account to his savings account, called the Treasury security. It's a savings account at the Federal Reserve Bank. Has his money been taken away from him? Has he lost it? How much money does he think he has on this? It's the same $100, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So the Treasury sold the Treasury. Treasury sold the Treasury security. The dentist bought it for $100. Now the Treasury has it in their account at the Fed. Now President Obama gets his teeth cleaned, and they pay you the $100. Now what do you have? Well, you've got the $100 you started with, plus $100 in your savings account, your Treasury security at the Fed. Again, deficit spending has added $100 of savings to the economy. It hasn't taken away anything. Okay, so that whole thing, it makes no sense whatsoever. Now, again, before 1934 on the gold standard, it did make some sense because it would have reduced the available gold to back the money. But that's entirely inapplicable. We're not on that anymore. It's like watching the wrong channel on the television set whatsoever. So, and yet that vestigial fraud is still out there. That government debt takes away money from the economy, and you still hear it. Every night on the news from MSNBC and Fox. I mean, they both agree, and they're both wrong.
So let's go to our next one. And this is, I think, one that will make people most excitable. And that is that Social Security is broken.
Yeah. Okay, so what happens when I get my Social Security check? Or you get your Social Security, or you're not ready yet. Okay, what happens is I can watch it online. I bring up my bank account and I see I have $2,000 in my account, and I'm going to get $2,500 Social Security. I'm going to get $3,000 Social Security coming in. It's the first of the month. And I watch my computer screen and I watch it, and all of a sudden, instead of 2,000, it says 5,000, right? Well, what did the government do? How did they pay me? Okay, all they did was turn the 2 into a 5. They didn't take a gold coin and hammer it into the computer. They didn't take somebody's tax dollars of old $20 bills and shove them into my account somehow. All they did was change up my number in my account. Where else do we see this? I use the example of the football game. You kick a field goal, you get 3 points. It goes up on the scoreboard. Where did the football stadium get the 3 points? They didn't get them from anywhere. They just put them up on the scoreboard. You're playing cards and you're in a card game and somebody's the scorekeeper. He gives you 100 points. Well, where did he get the 100 points? You get it from anywhere. Just put the number in your account. Okay, it's scorekeeping. So when I get Social Security check, when I get a Social Security check, what actually happens is direct deposit. All the government does is change the number in my account. Now let's say I get a check. Okay, nothing happens until I deposit that check. When I deposit it, they change the number of my account. The check is instructions to change the number of my account. That's all it is. It's instructions for the Federal Reserve. Okay, so how can you run out of that? What, are we going to limit kids playing football because they're going to score so many points? They're going to use them up and we can't play anymore? They're like stupid. The idea that Social Security can't make payment is nonsense. Now, they can decide not to pay. They can get a majority vote and say, we're not going to pay you because they think they're running out of money or something, but the actual running out is when they collect tax, Social Security tax, FICA tax. Supposedly, the story is.
Uh-oh, I think we locked up again. All right, folks, it looks like this broadcast is going to have to end one more time. We're having difficulties. Warren's in the Virgin Islands, and the connection between us here in Pennsylvania at Real Progressives and through the internet using Be Live, it just seems like we're at a point right now where we're going to go ahead and restart this. We'll start back up on the next innocent fraud. So come back by here momentarily. Just give me a second. We'll get it started again. Thank you very much, everybody.